morning, traders. I am Emily Advani, the CEO of the Investment Banking Institute and your host here at NewsWare's Trade Talk. Joining me is trading anchor Bill Olson, who brings more than 30 years of institutional trading experience to our program. At Trade Talk, we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Today is Monday, October 13th. Markets head into a new week facing renewed tariff headlines, an ongoing government shutdown, and a busy earnings season as investors look to recover from Friday's steep losses. The Dow fell 878 points, the Nasdaq dropped 820, and the S&P 500 shed 182 to end the week deep in the red. Bill, let's get into Monday in a new week with what is happening in the markets this morning.
Hi, yes. Good morning, Emily. I'm watching the S&Ps. We're up a little over 1%, 1.02%, which is good. We were up higher. We were up, 1.40, so like 1.5%. So, yeah, but we're still ticking higher. So, that's kind of this positive action is beneficial. But you got to take a look at take a look at the action and kind of get an understanding of why we're trading higher. It really comes down to what's happening out of President Trump and his trade rhetoric. I mean, he walked back his earlier combative comments against China over the weekend. China clarified that it's enhanced rare earth export controls. They're not bans, but they're more regulatory measures designed to prevent indirect transfer of minerals and technology. So, when Trump understood that, he's like, oh, well, that's not so bad. So, he walked back his his comments. So, we're seeing this market, rally back a little bit today. The U.S. government, on the other hand, it remains shut down. I mean, there's no dialogue happening. There's no notable progress that's going on. And this is going to start to weigh on markets sooner or later. And then, at the end of the month, you do have those IEPA decision that's coming out on the tariffs. The Trump administration is going to have to rally around and trying to kind of figure out new ways to install these tariffs because they're not going to get a favorable ruling, it doesn't appear. What else do we have today? Bond markets are closed today. It's Columbus holiday. Bond markets are closed. You're not going to see any SEC filings today. Typically, also, it's lighter volume. I don't think we're going to have the lighter volumes today. Today's the start of that Oracle AI World Summit. That's something to keep an eye on. And, hey, third quarter earnings. The banks start to release tomorrow morning. This morning, we had Fast coming out with their earnings. They were okay. But tomorrow morning you got the earnings coming out from Domino's Pizza, Citibank, Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo, Johnson & Johnson, JP Morgan, just to name a few. And then we're turning our attention over to Europe and seeing the action over in Europe this morning. Now, remember, Europe didn't slide like the U.S. did on Friday because they were already closed when Trump made those comments. But you look at the markets, I mean, Germany's up 0.34% or 81 points. I mean, you're seeing gains in autos, techs, and retail sectors. The FTSE is flat. It's, flat to lower right now, down 0.01. Gold did hit a new high. That caused some outperformance in the mining sector. That's kind of positive. And in France, I mean, you look at France. France is up 0.35% this morning with outperformance in autos, luxury stocks. President Macron unveiled a new cabinet yesterday. We were expecting that. And so that's kind of positive action, positive development in the European political situation. Turning over to Asia last night, Japan was closed. The Nikkei was closed. It's Sports Day, I believe, is the holiday. Hong Kong finished lower by 1.52%. All sectors were really weak in Hong Kong last night. Shanghai dropped 0.19%, not much. But the big headline remains the trade barriers. But they had big losses in the morning, but they were able to recoup those losses because China's foreign trade exports, they actually increased 8.3% year over year, and that beat the expectations of a 6% rise. So overall, that's positive. Then we're taking a look at oil this morning, and oil is, remember, oil got smoked on Friday. It was down 4% on Friday, but this morning we're showing gains of about 1.3, 1.4%. WTI is trading at $59.76 a barrel. Brent is trading at $63.56 a barrel. Hamas released the hostages. That's positive. Because that lowers the tensions in in the Middle East, that's positive. And Trump walking back his comments, that's positive as well. So, you got oil trading slightly higher. We'll see if all that holds. But that's what I have for you in terms of a morning market update, Emily.
As you mentioned, President Trump walking back those comments on the tariffs and saying that they can work things out with China is moving markets higher this morning. It's nice to see some green across the screen on a Monday morning. And there's some headlines that continue on this week as they have the past couple weeks with that ongoing shutdown. But one action that is heating up, one area that is heating up is earnings action. Bill, you give us a little bit of a preview there in your opening. So let's dive in. What is going on in terms of earnings action?
Well, I mean, Fastenal, ticker FAST, they did release. Hey, their report was okay, but upcoming is really what we got to talk about because tomorrow morning is the big day when we get all the banks releasing. I mean, look at the tape. I mean, you got Citibank. They're expected to make $1.87. They're expected to move is 5.59%. You got Goldman. They're expected to make $10.93. They're expected to move 5.62%. You got JP Morgan. They're expected to earn $4.83. Expected move is 5.13%. So yeah, a lot of big banks coming out tomorrow to keep an eye on. But that's what I have for you in terms of a earnings report, Emily.
And we will be keeping an eye on those earnings for our listeners. So make sure to tune in every day to get the latest update on those releases. The other thing we're eyeing, and there's not much going on there, is economic reports. Because the government continues to be shut down, there is a lack of information on that front, which has markets a little bit on edge. We might be missing some key data throughout the week. So let's get into economic events. Bill, what is going on there?
Well, I mean, today's Columbus Day, and then the government's closed, but we're not seeing any economic reports scheduled for release today. But I do see that Philadelphia Fed Bank President Anna Paulson, she is going to be speaking. So, she's going to be talking at 12:10 p.m. today. On October 15th, we were supposed to get the CPI report. That's it. They did call in the workers to produce this report. But it's not going to be released until October 24th due to the shutdown. So, that is kind of positive. At least they're going to produce that report. But, we've got to, in lieu of like a lot of reports, we're going to have a heavy dose of Fed speak this week. And starting today with, the Philadelphia Fed, Anna Paulson. But that's what I have for you in terms of economic update, Emily.
Another area of information we will continue to monitor, looking at any commentary from the Fed, putting together those clues on their next steps in terms of monetary policy, gathering those earnings reports and those economic events, all using your NewsWare. And Bill, you also follow other types of news, data, and information day in and day out. You're looking at things like merger news, guidance news, shareholders meetings, and buyback news. You're looking at catalyst calls, your stocks grouped together like your FANG stocks and your Dow 30 stocks. So Bill, what else do you see is possibly moving the markets today?
Doing a quick data check. I'm looking at my Dow stocks. I got 6 lower and 24 higher. That's nice to see. I'm looking at my FANG stocks that are all in the green, up over 1%, the majority of them, except Netflix is only up 0.5%. But, seeing a lot of positive activity. We're talking about like the news behind the tape and like Apple, they may involve M5 iPad, MacBook Pro this week is a story that's out there. Google's out there warning Australia that it's a new law on social media may be difficult to enforce. That's true. Um, Meta, I mean, Citibank opened up a 90-day positive catalyst watch on Meta into earnings, something to keep an eye on. Tesla, I saw a report out there that Tesla's Cybertruck sales are down 63% in Q3 year over year. Not positive. Dow Jones 30 stocks, like JP Morgan, they're going to invest $10 billion in U.S. companies critical to national security. Caterpillar, ticker CAT, they're going to acquire Australians RPM Global for about $730 million. In terms of shareholders meeting, Miller Knoll, they're going to be having a shareholder meeting today. MLKN, they're having that shareholders meeting today at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. And that's what I have for you about news in the tape this morning, Emily.
This is the type of data that NewsWare delivers daily. It's factual, it's market moving, and our alerting functions bring it to your attention as it happens. Go to www.newsware.com now and sign up for the trial and see for yourself the benefits that professional Newswire delivers. We've now made it to that time of the show for the Trade Talk pick of the day. Bill, what do you have for us to kick off this week?
I'm going to go with Wells Fargo. ticker WFC, William Frank Charlie. Earnings are tomorrow morning. EPS is $1.54. Expected move is 5.31%. Yeah, I'm looking at the banks on Friday, and this is the only one that actually had a positive put to call ratio. I mean, you look at the call volume, 40,838 calls versus 31,482 puts. That's positive. Open interest, negative though. 596K versus 624K. Don't like that. Major brokers are mainly positive on the stock. They have been raising price targets. They do like the stock, but for me, I want to get in, I want to get in, that, when that low print hits, and I think it could hit, 76.25 this morning. So that's my entry point, 78.25. If it hits 78.25, I think that's not a bad place to go in there. So anywhere between 78.25 is really what I'm looking for as far as an entry price. But that's my pick of the way. What day today? Wells Fargo, WFC, hoping to make my gain during the day, Emily.
Bill, going with the big bang today on an earnings play, looking at Wells Fargo. We will follow that one along with you. And then just a moment before we sign off, we will do a check-in on Friday's pick of the day, so stick with us through that. But first, let's take a look at the current breaking headlines that have hit the tape in our hot off the press segment. Bill, sending it back to you.
Okay, let's take a look here. Trump's out there saying it would be great if we could make a peace deal with Iran. Scott Bessent says he's already been in touch with allies about China. AstraZeneca, AZN. Apparently, they did a deal with the White House to lower the cost of prescription drugs. AZN, Apple, Zebra, Nancy. Warner Brothers Discovery, WBD. They rejected Peace Guy's initial bid, deeming it too low. JP Morgan unveils 1.5 trillion plan to boost investments in U.S. strategic industries. I can mention that earlier. Blackstone to buy a big stake in Trintax. BX, Big Yellow Group says it's held talks over options as Blackstone mulls a bid. Banks are exploring issuing stable coins that are pegged to G7 currencies.
Okay, Bill, before we dive into another week of trading, let's take a quick look back to last week and Friday's pick of the day, which was Fastenal. They did give us a look at their earnings during your earnings rundown. They did beat by a penny, posting an EPS of 29 cents, beating the analyst estimates of 28 cents, and revenue came in at $2.08 billion. It was up 8.6% year over year and just ahead of consensus estimates. Net income rose about 12.7% from the prior year. Not a bad report, Bill, but just not seeing a strong gain this morning, actually trading off a little bit. But you were looking at this one Friday. It was a messy day in the markets. But if I recall, Fastenal was in the green. How did your call work out?
Yeah, Fastenal actually did work out because Trump said the market's lower, but prior to that, you look at the deal and you look at it, it opened up $47.06, and then it ran to $47.69. So boom, your 1% was there. I mean, granted, it fell down to 45.70 and closed out at 45.78. But if you look at the stock this morning, I mean, it really rallied. It rallied up to 47.8, 47.99, and I saw that ask at 48. So Fastenal, it's not it's not as big of a winner as what we had on Thursday, that's for sure. But you can't get 30% winners every day. But it made our 1% goal, and that's what we're looking for. As soon as you get that 1%, get out. And FAST did that on Friday, Emily.
Certainly can't do 30% every day, but 1% isn't bad, especially when it was a messy day on Friday. So a win there, and we will check in with you tomorrow about today's Wells Fargo pick of the day. Bill, thank you as always for your expert insight. Join us back here tomorrow and each weekday morning this week at NewsWare's Trade Talk when we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Again, I'm your host, Emily Vani, here with trading anchor Bill Olson. Traders, you know what to do. Let's go out there and make some green.